In today's video, we have some pretty significant NHL injuries to discuss. We've seen some pretty significant players go down with some pretty significant injuries. We'll discuss all that and how it impacts their teams coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, we have some NHL injuries here to discuss today. We've seen some pretty significant injuries go down recently with some pretty significant players. It's going to have a major impact here on their team. Now let's get started here with Florida Panthers center Vincent Trochek. Now Trochek suffered a pretty gruesome injury the other night versus the Ottawa Senators. It was a very odd game with Ottawa versus Florida. It was kind of before the injury ever even took place. There was a medical emergency in the crowd, which caused the first period to have to end early. With approximately 3 or 4 minutes to go in the first period, there was a medical emergency in the crowd, and the team doctors and paramedics had to attend to this person. Apparently there was an older gentleman, I believe it was around 82, 83 years old, who kind of went into cardiac arrest, I do believe is the information that we had. I don't know how things turned out, but I know it was quite a serious situation. And so that had happened, and they ended the period early. So they had the first intermission, came back out, played the remaining 3 minutes and change or whatever was left on the clock. And then the injury to Trochek happened, and then the game was delayed here yet again. Is basically he went into the boards with Ottawa Senators forward Brian Dzingel. His leg buckled underneath of him, and he just fell really awkwardly. And you could hear him screaming on the ice as the play started to go up the other way. They blew the play down because they could hear him in agony. It was really something you could hear, even regardless if you're in the arena or watching on TV. Like the microphones picked up quite closely on his screams. Like it was one of those things you really hate to see. Everybody in the rink was quiet. All players on both teams were very concerned for Trochek. He ended up being stretchered off the ice. Ended up having surgery. It appears as though they haven't said a whole lot. Originally, they said it was a significant surgery on his leg, but the information now, I do believe, my guess was that it might have been a broken ankle. It could have been a knee injury. It could have been a combination of multiple things too. Based on the statement the Florida Panthers issued now, it looks as though that it was an ankle injury, and he's going to be out for a significant period of time. Although they are quite optimistic, though, that he will be able to return before the end of the season, but he is going to be out for it's going to probably be at least a few months for sure. I'm going to say 2 to 3 months, but they're hopeful that maybe between March and April, before the regular season's over, he might be able to get back into the lineup. But that's going to be a big blow for the Florida Panthers. He plays a major role in that second line, and he's certainly going to be greatly missed for sure. Now, the Florida Panthers started off the season a little slow. They're trying to claw their way back up the standings. They've had some pretty solid play. I mean, they got Mike Hoffman on a 16-game point streak now. He's doing really well. Barkov, Huberdeau, they're all playing relatively well. So they really need all their players here to kind of climb the standings. So that's going to be a big blow for this team. And of course, the other big one here is Boston Bruins forward Patrice Bergeron is going to be out for approximately 4 weeks or maybe a little bit more with some type of a rib injury. He went into the boards awkwardly the other night and sustained a fairly significant injury there as well. So the Boston Bruins are another team really battling the injury bug here and going through a lot of adversity with a lot of guys out longer term now. Bergeron plays a significant role for that team. He really plays in all situations. As you know, he's one of the league's top players. So that's certainly a big blow for this club. Of course, they don't have Riley Nash there to kind of act as that insulation like he did last year. He was able to move up in the lineup and play so well for that team. And of course, he departed via free agency. So their depth at the forward positions, but especially at center, is really going to be tested now with Bergeron being out longer term. So we'll see how the Bruins can respond to that. And of course, Captain Zdeno Chara, which we already mentioned before last time we talked about injuries, was going to be out, but we didn't have as much information at that time. But he is going to be out for approximately a month or so as well. Looks as though when he went into the boards, you could see his leg didn't really move the right way again. And I suspect it's some sort of knee injury, and it is his MCL that's injured. So he's looking at approximately a 4-week recovery. Of course, they're still without Brandon Carlo, Charlie McAvoy as well. So that blue line is really battered and beaten up, and now their most invaluable forward and Patrice Bergeron is out as well. So we'll see how this team can keep things going. Obviously, they've got Pasternak, Marchand. They still got a lot of weapons out there that can help them win some hockey games, but I think they're safe to say that their depth is definitely going to be tested with all these injuries. Montreal Canadiens defenseman Noah Juulsen is going to be out. Right now they're calling it indefinitely, but it's hard to say exactly how long. He suffered some facial fractures after getting a puck to the face as well. Similar type of injury that we saw with Zach Smith of the Ottawa Senators not too long ago. Different scenario though, where Zach got a skate to the face, where this is the puck to the face, but same sort of outcome, I guess you could say. Zach Smith ended up being out of the lineup for about a month. Depending on the surgery and how things heal. So I would assume Juulsen's probably looking at a similar type recovery. Probably going to have to wear a full cage for a little while when he first comes back. But either way, he'll be out for a little while for the Montreal Canadiens. So that's certainly not going to bode well as well. But, as we know, Shea Weber is getting closer to returning for Montreal. And there's been some speculation they might have to trade a defenseman to make room on a roster. Earlier in the year, they had a little bit of a logjam at the forward position. Now they could end up with a similar situation with Weber coming back on defense. But if Juulsen's going to be out for a period of time, that very well might buy them some time here to kind of decide how they want to proceed. Once Weber's ready, then they'll have to make more decisions at that point. But we're still a little bit away from that happening. Now, another defenseman that's been out for some time, and it's not really clear how long he's going to be out, but it's definitely going to be a while longer, and that's PK Subban of the Nashville Predators. Now, all we really know is that he's battling some sort of upper body injury. I haven't really seen any reports giving out any more additional information or details than that. He's missed the last 3 games, though, and it looks as though he's going to be a while longer before he can return. Now, because of the amount of time he's been on IR, he's certainly eligible to return, I think, just about any time now, but he's not going to be ready just yet. He's still having some complications with that injury, and he's likely going to miss at least a few more games here for the Predators before he can get back. Goaltender Ben Bishop of the Dallas Stars is another guy that's going to be out for a little while. This one's not too long. Probably expected to miss approximately 1 week. Now, as we know, Ben Bishop's had a long history of injuries throughout his career. It's kind of one of the things that goes against him. As much as he's a good goalie, he gets hurt way too often. So hopefully this one is just a minor thing and doesn't drag on. But he is expected to be out approximately 1 week of action here for the Dallas Stars. One piece of good news on the injury front, Sidney Crosby, the Pittsburgh Penguins, is expected to return likely to tonight's game. I don't know if he's a game-time decision or he's been confirmed for tonight, but he's definitely real close to playing. And if not this game, the next one for sure. So Crosby is doing much better and is expected back in the lineup. So we'll see how Pittsburgh responds. As we know, they've been in a bit of a tailspin lately. We saw a trade from them not too long ago. There's been lots of other kind of whispers and rumors floating around about what they might react to, how Jim Rutherford might address the needs of this team, maybe shake things up. But at least getting Crosby back is certainly going to be a big help, and we'll see how they respond and if they can get things going here in Pittsburgh. One other quick piece of NHL news here as well. It's not really related to injuries, but it doesn't really long enough to kind of warrant a video on its own. So I thought I would just kind of squeeze it in here. But Colorado Avalanche forward and one of the NHL's top scorers this season, Mikko Rantanen, has been fined for embellishment. So obviously this is his first time going down this road. But it's certainly once you're fined for embellishment, it's certainly kind of get your name on a list that the league keeps a much closer eye on. So that's not something you want to be associated with for sure. I mean, I know there's a lot of players that can try to do what they can to get their team a penalty call and get a power play, whatnot. But when you go too far and it's too obvious that you're embellishing, then the league will come up and fine you. As each one goes on, you get fined more and more each time. But Rantanen has been fined for embellishment. That's the first one I've seen so far this season, for the 18-19 season so far. So we'll see if we get any more players getting caught with that. Something that we do see often enough, but it doesn't always get called. Or you don't see too many fines being issued unless it's really blatant. I'm not sure exactly where it was that he was caught doing this, so I don't have a clip or anything to link to show what has been done, but he has been fined, so obviously they caught him doing something somewheres. So it's, again, not something you want to have yourself associated with, but really not overall a big deal. So obviously that might impact, things with the referees moving forward, might impact his reputation a little bit, and maybe sometimes when there's borderline calls, it might not necessarily go his way, but either way, not a good thing for sure, but it's the first one we've seen of that this season. So as always, let me know your thoughts and comments down below in the comment section. We can continue the conversation. What kind of impact are these injuries going to have on these teams, especially when we're talking about Boston and Florida? I mean, Bergeron and Trochek's injuries are pretty significant, especially Vincent Trochek. Could this be another case of the Florida Panthers having a slow start? And with Trochek being out, could this really impact their hopes to get back into the playoffs this season? If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams. There's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up before you go as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.